Mayor O'Leary, you're muted.
Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mayor Hess, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Sure. From the city of Waterbury, Chair of the Executive Board, Mayor O'Leary.
Here.
From the city of Shelton, we're expecting Mayor Loretti. I don't believe we have him yet. From the borough of Naugatuck, Mayor Hess.
Here.
As I said, First Selectman Moen is on vacation. From the city of Derby, Mayor Zekin.
Here.
From the town of Wolcott, Mayor Dunn.
Here.
From the town of Middlebury, First Selectman St. John. Ed? Is Ed connected?
He's here, he's muted.
Okay. Yeah, I can't see that screen from here. All right. Ed, can you, there you go.
Oh, thank you. Took a little coaching on my part. Thank you.
No problem. From the city of Ansonia, Mayor Cassetti, we're expecting, he's not with us, I don't believe. From the city of Bristol, Mayor Caggiano. Not with us yet. Okay, you do have a, we're also joined by another member of the board who's not in the executive committee. First Selectwoman Anne Marie Dragonis from Seymour is also on the line. With that, Mayor, you have a quorum of the executive board.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Anyone from the public on the phone that would like to address us in our executive committee meeting? Okay, seeing that we aren't joined by anyone else, we'll go to item agenda number 2, the approval of the February 2nd, 2022 record of meeting. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion, accept.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Zeke and a second from Mayor Hess. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Item agenda number 3, legislative review and budget discussion.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, we have a couple of things. So under legislative review, there's only one bill that or one activity that we're interested in as a COG, which is the regional service grant funding, the RSG funding, which is a major portion. We're working on it. We don't expect a separate bill on it, and we're continuing to work, but I just wanted to advise the board. We're not assuming any increase in our budget when we get to that, but we're hopeful that we're going to see an increase in the base amount so that the formula then in turn generates more money to this COG as well as others. Every region would see an increase if there's an increase in the pot of money. The only other legislative item that we've been involved in is we submitted testimony generally supportive of the EPR legislation, but very soft, very broad, just basically saying that it was worth looking into and it's worth advancing the concepts as part of the plan to reduce municipal waste streams and recycling streams. I leave it to you, Mr. Mayor, if you have any other legislative items that the members would like to discuss.
Now, the only thing that I have testified on the opioid allocation bill that was presented by the governor. The bill falls in line with the federal settlement agreement that says you have to create a special advisory panel. The good news for us in cities and towns is that the advisory panel will consist of, according to the bill that's been presented, 16 members representing cities and towns and 16 members representing state officials. And that would, of course, include commissioners and so on. So that bill, it's definitely going to pass. The only thing that we were recommending from CCM perspective is that the cities and towns have a co-chair leadership role so that we're on equal footing with our friends from the state. So we'll see how it goes. Why do we need 16 members from cities and towns? Honestly, we probably don't, but this will give us an ability, they've got X amount of people with cities over 100,000, X amount of people, cities over 75, over 50, over 25 and less than 25, something like that. So anyways, I'll keep you all posted on how that goes, but I think we're okay. I think that the governor recognizes what we want. At this point, I don't think it's going to be a problem. The only other discussion I had is I submitted testimony this morning on behalf of CCM and Waterbury on the Senator Looney's proposal. I forgot the bill number, but it's a Senate bill, and he wants to change Lamont's plan from lowering the car mill rate to 29. He wants to lower it to 30 for some reason. And then he wants under Lamont's plan, any cities and towns with a mill rate over 29 would get reimbursement, up to whatever their mill rate would be. So in our case, it's about $10 million. And what, oddly enough, what Senator, and New Haven's mill rate's high as well, oddly enough, what Senator Looney has proposed is full reimbursement for the first year. And then for the next following 4 years, the reimbursement goes from 100% to 80% to 60 to 40 to 20 to 0. So I have no idea what he's thinking about and why he wants to put that kind of burden on the towns and cities. But I don't think the bill's going to get any legs, according to the people that I've spoke to. So I'm not so concerned about it. But we did submit testimony today on that as well. So, transcript on that as well. So written testimony, I should say. That's all I got. Have any questions?
On that same issue, I just wanted to ask, we met with Randy Collins, the COG directors did, and one of the conversations that came up yesterday was a proposal that might be floating out there to uninvolve the towns in it and to allow people to take the motor vehicle credit against their income tax, against their state income tax. So we've heard about this, and we asked Randy, he said they had not looked at any such proposal yet. But I just wanted to make you aware that we've heard discussion about that. So, what it does is it means the towns wouldn't have to go back every year and make sure the legislature is giving them the reimbursement. So it's an idea.
Okay, well, I don't know about that, but okay, we'll see.
If I can,
Yeah, I
Mayor,
just know we're joined by Mayor Caggiano while you were speaking.
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah, sorry for the tardiness. Had a little issue I was dealing with, but thank you for welcoming me.
That's okay.
welcome to, yeah. Hey, Mayor O'Leary, our chairman, can I
Yes.
just give a quick update on, I haven't testified, but we've been testifying through CCM for the trash. There's been a lot of trash talk up there. The Merit plant and other ways of the DEP's been going at it, and it seems like they're trying to work together, but it seems like they're in different directions with DEP and the Merit plant. But the committee the other day, it sounded like they wanted to. One of the chairman of the committee was stating that they want to try to give them maybe instead of that 350 million or whatever, give them 10 to 15 million a year to keep it running longer until somebody comes up with something on the food waste or any other ideas. So we're just following that closely to see where that goes. And we're still working with DEP on getting the grant money and the legislation to the legislators to approve that for anybody that wants to open up a food waste plant or work together in coalition, working with COG right now. And I'm also working with our BRFOC, we're Covanta, where we bring our trash. So there's a lot going on with the trash business.
So Tommy, would that be a separate food waste to energy plant that
Yeah.
you're talking about?
I have one, there's one already down in Southington, a Quantum. And they're talking about putting a couple more, or at least where to bring the food waste and get it out of the trash. And that's the biggest part. Everyone's doing pilot programs. It's just the cost of transportation. It's not worth it. You know, you're better off just keeping it in the trash right now. And that's what I've been talking with DEP, this grant money, if they would pay for the transportation. So we're going on with the COG next Wednesday, another meeting. We're pretty close to coming up with, starting with our schools and a neighborhood, one neighborhood, and where we have 2 schools to do the food waste. And this grant would pay for the transportation, be separate from everything else. You could put the bags right into the regular waste and dump it down on the floor at Quantum supposedly, and then they would separate it and then bring the other trash to our place. So that would all be through the DEP grant, but it is the food waste separate, Mayor.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just from Naugatuck's perspective, we're working on a food waste, the liquid anaerobic digester in Naugatuck. And my potential partner, Mr. St. John, may not even know about this yet, but we're looking into a revenue generating project where we would take the liquid that's squeezed out of the food waste and digest it in Naugatuck. And that's not a total solution, but it does eliminate the volume by, I don't know, I'll say 20% or something like that. It's a partial solution and a potential revenue generator. So we're working with we'll probably have an RFP on this, but we're definitely looking at that project. It would be a revenue generator. It would be attached to our wastewater treatment plant, and it would be a help to the state's problem, but certainly not a total solution. But I just want everyone to know about it because it's, it's good for Naugatuck. It's probably good for Middlebury, and it's good for anyone that wants to dispose of the liquid. They call it a jus. So you squeeze out the liquid from the trash, and the jus, which is pretty significant, has to go somewhere. And we think we'll have a partial solution on that.
You want to put it on your prime rib, Pete?
I want to hear from the partner.
Mayor O'Leary,
Yes.
could I ask, I think there were 2 points raised here today that are extremely, I think may be very interesting. It may be good for discussion at our meeting on Friday. I have really never heard, an update. Tom gave us one now. He's given it to the executive board, but there's a lot of mirror towns that are not privy to that discussion, Mayor. So it'd be nice if you could bring all the rest of us up to speed on that. Mayor Hess, I think you've come up with a great idea. We'd welcome working with the borough. We're at the table with you, so go right ahead and do what you got to do down there. We're all on board. Count us in. So listen, if you could bring the membership up to speed on some of those issues, I think could be very, very helpful on Friday.
Yeah.
Um,
Don DeCarlo should, he's right involved in it. He wasn't at the meeting the other day for some reason, but he's been on every other one. Christine is working with there, and we're working with DEP. They're actually going to put a pilot plan together for us by next Wednesday. We have another call, and we're going to try to move this along pretty quick because that's one of my things. It's all these things have been going on for years, and it's like let's do it. You know what I mean? Everybody talks about it, and nothing happens. It's like let's get.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to note, so we'll note for Friday's agenda under municipal shared services, we'll have a discussion on waste stream issues. We'll make that note. 2 things I need to inform you of. One is Mayor Loretti has been on the call. He's on the phone. And then the other thing has to do with John DeCarlo, and the reason he's not here for today's legislative discussion, and he's been out. John had emergency appendectomy yesterday.
How sweet it is.
So he's going to be working remotely. He'll be out of the office for a while, but he'll be working remotely. I don't know. Was he on this? He was on this morning's call in Ansonia, right?
He was, yeah.
Right.
He was actually looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's restricted from driving for some period of time, I guess. So But he'll be joining us remotely when he can. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if there's any other legislative discussion, we could go to the budget review.
Let's go.
Okay. So the document that I'm putting up on your screen right now is just a recap of the budget we showed you previously. The major assumptions in this budget are no increase in the RSG funding, which is the one I'm trying to hover over here on the screen. 473 was our anticipated last year. It actually came in at 490. Both of them were significant cuts from the year prior, and that's what we're trying to restore. That's what we're working to try and restore. But it actually came in at 490. This is the budgeted column, not the actual for 22. But prior to that, Michael, it was 580, 590,
570.
$570,000. So that's what we're hoping to get restored. The other assumption in here is we still have the 5% dues, municipal dues increase in here. I'll go back to that in a second. And then the other assumption is that we're going to bill all available PL funds, which are federal transportation dollars. So we're billing the total amount available to us. We're matching the total amount available to us. And if we don't bill it all, and that translates to deficit because of the way we charge the indirect rate. I don't know if do I need to go through that for, I think everyone on the executive board is familiar, or maybe Mayor Caggiano I hasn't heard this explanation before. So for every dollar that our employees bill to federal programs, so if someone makes $1 an hour, our indirect cost rate, which is intended to cover all of the other fringe benefit overhead costs of running the agency, is 131%. So for every dollar that someone bills to a program while they're working, we bill $2.31 to the federal government. So if our staff does not bill time to a federal grant, then we don't get that extra $1.31 on their dollar. None of our money is appropriated at the beginning of the year, with the exception of the town dues, which is a relatively small part of our budget. So billing the federal funds are key. So those are the assumptions. I don't know if anyone wants to talk. We talked about the line items last month. There haven't been any changes. Michael's made some minor adjustments, but basically we're expending our full amount at 2.8 million. Michael, what was the actual total funding not received? You actually don't have that number. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but it's higher than 2.5 million. Like I said, our budgeted amount, but our available amount turned out to be higher than 2.5 million last year. So this comparison of 11% is not exactly, it doesn't compare against actual. Expenses, all the same. We have reserves in here. Again, we're assuming that we're billing all of our federal money under salaries. And then these are still salary items that I've broken them out so you can see what we're doing. This one was the one we had discussed, and we'll discuss later in the meeting when we get to executive session. We have the study that the board requested regarding salary comparisons to other regions. We'll be able to look at that and discuss the negotiation over employee compensation. But it is a balanced budget as opposed to last year when we adopted a deficit budget. And that is the difference. That's the money we're missing from RSG, is the $78,000 from last year. I don't know if there are any questions on this. This is the G&A budget. So this is the basic operating budget exclusive of salaries, pass-throughs. This is really what it costs to turn the key in the door and run it every year. And that's about $349,000. It's about a 4% increase over last year's budgeted number. And then this is just a bigger spreadsheet that shows you the comparisons across everything. We can send this out again if the board wants. And Michael, why don't you just email it out to everyone? And then again, the G&A. What I wanted to do was change, unless there are questions about the line items, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to go over to the dues schedule and just review what that looks like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Just bear with me here as I try and switch sharing. And I'll bring us to the due schedule. Okay, so this particular schedule, I'll just clear the titles out of the way. What you'll see if I scroll all the way down to the bottom is the numbers. So 447 to 450, those are the population numbers. So that's important to note that the populations are changing this year. From the 2010 census, we'll be using the 2020 census for the new budget. It was the 2010 census for the old budget. That has some impact on how this increase works out. As you can see, it's a 5% projected increase in dues. We did send out the notice, by the way, telling towns that we were not, you had not adopted a schedule yet for dues. But what you'll see is because of the population change in Waterbury as compared to the other towns, the total increase is only $11,000 in dues, but $5,200 of that accrues to Waterbury. So, and that has to do with the change in population. Most towns were either stagnant or had a slight reduction in population. So whereas, you know, it works out to a 2.5% increase in Beacon Falls, it works out to a 9.3% increase in Waterbury. And that's just as a result of the 5% increase and the population change. So I wanted to show that to all of you today. We'll also send that out to all of you after, following today's meeting. We're not looking for any decisions today. I just wanted to show it to you and ask you, you know, be able to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Sorry, I was diverted my attention for a minute. Any questions on anything that Rick has presented?
While you were looking away, Mayor, they put half the increase on Waterbury.
Oh, good.
That was purposeful, I think, the distraction, wasn't it?
So anyway, what I explained, Mr. Mayor, is that because of the population change, the 5% increase has disparate impacts to the various towns. A big chunk of it is shifted to Waterbury. So of the $11,000 increase in proposed dues, $5,200 accrues to Waterbury because of the population change from the new census. We're not looking for any action or recommendation today. We're just continuing to update you, and then, like I said, we'll get into the salaries later when we look at that comparison schedule and talk about adjustments to employee compensation.
When did we, excuse me, when did we have our last dues increase?
We actually did 3% last year, I believe. Yes.
Okay. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's been, you know, we were 0 for, I think, 4 years at the merger. The merger, we had a reduction, and then we had 4 years of flat, and then we had increase last year and I think the year before.
Are you guys okay with this to present to the committee as a whole?
I see it a very reasonable increase.
Yeah,
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yep.
All right.
So the thing the board needs to decide is when you want to bring back the budget to the full board. We're not planning to do that until May or June. We're going to try and see what the legislature does and then do it.
Yeah, that's wise. We might as well wait and see what they do to us before we do anything else. Okay. All right, good. You ready to move on, Rick?
Item number 4.
Yeah. Nomination of NVCOG representative to the Regional Brownfield Partnership.
So the members may recall that Karen Spargo, who was the director of the Naugatuck+Valley Regional Health District, was the NVCOG representative to the Regional Brownfield Partnership. So we have under the rules of the RBP, the NVCOG has a seat on the committee. We host it, but it's really run by the towns and the members that are appointed by the towns. So we have a vacancy. I've been filling it. If you recall, we spoke about this previously. We decided that I would fill that position until you did. I have a recommendation for you today. You can act on it or not, but my recommendation is that we appoint Roy Kavanaugh to the position. Roy was the chair of the RBP for the better part of 20 years. He was working for the town of Watertown at the time, and he's since moved to the city of Waterbury. And I think he'd be a great person, particularly his institutional knowledge and his knowledge of the system and leadership of the system. He'd make him a great candidate. So I'm making that recommendation to the board.
I would just say I agree with the recommendation. I've worked with Roy. I think he's great. So I agree.
I do as well. You know, he's doing great work for us here, and he's probably one of the more knowledgeable people in the area. So anybody have any other thoughts on this, or can we move Roy's name forward?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, because I was muted, and I wanted to weigh in on the last part of the discussion, but I don't think you heard me. Rick, what does the population grow in the region?
Oh, you can't see the screen. That's all right. I need to bring it back. I apologize if it changed. No, it's not going to change anything. So the regional population in 2010, according to census, was 447,750. According to census in 2020, it's 450,376. We know it's wrong, by the way.
Yeah.
We know it's significantly wrong, but it also aligns with the Connecticut Department of Health numbers. You know, there are mistakes. It shows Shelton's population dropping from 2010 to 2020, but that's a product of participation. It's a voluntary participation process. So if the residents of a city generally are lower rate participants in the census, then you get shut out.
That doesn't make any sense.
Unfortunately, it's the way it works.
Another governmental flaw.
Any other comments, Mayor Loretti, or are you okay with the dues increase?
Yeah, I have no issue with that.
Okay. Okay, so I think everybody's okay with moving Roy Kavanaugh's name forward based on what I'm not hearing from anyone else?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Okay, you guys, how about item 5, discussion and nomination of slate of directors to the Connecticut Brownfield Land Bank, Rick?
Mayor, this body has the power to appoint Roy, so we need a motion in a second.
Okay.
So moved.
Mayor Caggiano, so moved. Mayor Dunn, a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We ready for number 6? Mr. Dunn?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so do you want to go into executive session? Do you think we need to go into executive session, Rick?
I'm sorry, my fault. We're on number 5, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yeah.
This is a quick update for you. So we had anticipated, we prepared the memo you see on the screen, we had prepared for you last month, asking this body, the executive board, to nominate a slate of members for the Connecticut Brownfields Land Bank. They did not, hold on just one second. He muted, okay. So they did not adopt the new bylaws last month. They asked for a slight language change, and that language change is to reflect that the membership should, it's not a requirement, but the membership should reflect members from around the state, since the service area for the land bank is statewide. It's the entire state of Connecticut. So we're in the midst of making that change and bringing it to them. In the meantime, we are looking to this body to nominate a full slate of members. And what you'll see from here, this is the memo I said we prepared for you on February 2nd. The current members are listed there. I would encourage you to keep Aaron Howard from Hartford Economic Development in this interest of trying to keep statewide representation. She works for Luke Ronan in the Economic Development Office. She's been a member of this since she was working for Eleanor Carbone at Torrington. Liz Stocker would also be someone who has a wide representation in Fairfield County. She's a private consultant. And there are others on here who are good people from the region and statewide. So I'm happy to talk about that. The other ones that you should consider would be the CEOs from NVCOG and members of the Regional Brownfields Partnership, the RBP, which we just appointed Roy Kavanaugh to. And then we have some other Brownfields partners at UConn that might make good candidates for this. Also, we've received nominations. We asked for nominations. We did receive two sets of nominations. I take back one set of nominations from the mayor of Ansonia. He nominated Sheila O'Malley and John Marini, his economic development director and his city attorney. We have interest again from Roy Kavanaugh in serving on this if there's room. What I'd like to recommend today, Mr. Chairman, is if you could appoint a committee to take this list, and you're not limited by the list. You can go anywhere and choose anyone and develop a list of between 6 and 11 board members to serve under the new bylaws once they're adopted, which we expect to be. Christine, when do we think they might do that?
It's kind of up to, well, let me put it this way. Once we get a slate from here, I still need a chance to call and check with those people to make sure they are interested.
Right.
Then after that, we can schedule it within a week or two.
Yeah, but the bylaw change, they're going to meet soonest will be probably in April, right?
Yes. That's
Okay. All right. So Mr. Mayor, if we can just get a nominating committee and have them go to work on this, I'll be happy to sit down and staff will work with the nominating committee to come up with a list of names to present back to you at your next executive board meeting.
Who would like to chair the nominating committee? Any volunteers?
I'll volunteer.
Thank the Lord, I was a little concerned with this. All right, and then Rick, did I hear you right? We can nominate between 6 and 11 members from the NVCOG.
So you're going to nominate a slate. The NVCOG has the power to make the nominations, and then the current board elects. So it's the current board that's going to do the actual election, but the nomination will come from the executive board of NVCOG. And then obviously once you've nominated and elected people, and people have been elected based on the NVCOG nominations, then those are going to be presumably NVCOG people who are there, or NVCOG endorsed is probably the best way to put it. So
Mayor Hess, you want to take it over, and then any other further comment from others on the executive committee?
You need.
I'll work with Mayor Hess. For you, Mayor.
Perfect.
excellent.
Anyone else want to be on it?
Yeah, I'll on it with you, Mayor. Mayor Dunn.
Great. All right.
Okay,
Good to
Mayor
go.
Hess, Mayor Dunn, you're in charge. It sounds like an opportunity to meet at the train station to discuss this further.
Astute observation.
I watched the volunteers you get.
You know, I was a pretty good investigator in the day, just. Okay, all right, so we'll wait to hear from you guys. I don't think, just to give you an FYI, I'm not sure that Jimmy Nardozzi would still be interested in that. But you might, I'm sure, Pete, you might think that Tommy Hyde and, might be one person in particular. So I'm just throwing that out there for you guys to think about. Okay, now property 49 Leavenworth. Rick, do you think we need to go into executive session?
I think we should, for the balance of the meeting. I don't believe, I think you can vote to go into executive session subject to adjournment, no action to be taken.
Okay, so you mean when we come out of executive session, we'll be all but adjourned?
We'll just record the time. You don't have to do anything if we do it subject to adjournment.
So before we go into executive session, then I'd just like to I'd like to just jump to item agenda number 8, if it's okay. So I wanted to talk to all you guys, and we don't have to have a lengthy discussion about this, but I wanted to talk to every guys and girls about revaluation. So, you know, the residential property values in all of your towns, from what I'm hearing, has gone up dramatically, much more so in most cases than your commercial property. And so, you know, there's going to be a shift. At least that's what I'm told by our tax people. And, you know, I don't have to implement my reval until July 1st, 2023. But I don't think the values are going to change dramatically between now and then, from what I'm told. And I'm really trying to figure this out because in Waterbury, our residential property values have gone up anywhere between 25 and 35%. And particularly in the multifamily homes, the demand for the multifamily homes went through the roof with the COVID people coming in from New York. And by the way, the residential homes, the property values are the highest I could have ever imagined in every neighborhood in the city. Houses stay on the market still for less than 5 days. So the demand is still there. So I looked at some rough numbers, and you know, we're looking at some pretty significant reduction in our mill rate. But even with that, the average homeowner in Waterbury, if we were to do a revaluation and put it in place on one fell swoop, it would be about a $700 minimum increase per year to the average homeowner in Waterbury. So we're really looking at two options. One is the phase-in option, which is what the city of New Haven is doing, which you can do under Connecticut statutes with the, you know, approval from your governing board in your city or town. So, you know, that would be over 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, whatever you wanted to do, if that's what you wanted to do. Or there is legislation in the that has been proposed that any city or town, if they pass it, and I think they're going to, could kick the can down the road for a year and not address the issue. So I wanted to know just, you know, what you guys thought about all that. I have no desire, by the way, in Waterbury to delay the reval for a year, only because I think it's a political nightmare, because 2023 is an election year. And Waterbury got into all their troubles years ago because of constant delays in implementing revaluation that still haunts us to this very minute in time. So I'm not interested in the delay, but I am interested in exploring the phase-in. The good news is everybody's homes are worth a ton more than they were. The bad news is, even with you know, my commercial property rates in Waterbury haven't grown anywhere near those percentages the residential has. So the shift is going to be more toward the residential homeowner. Anybody have any thoughts on all that?
Mayor, here in Middlebury, we're dealing with the same numbers as you are. Same thing. We're seeing the same thing here. So where the residential is taking a pretty hefty shift here.
And are you when do you have to implement reval?
We're in it. Some of the numbers are being appealed and all of that. So last October, we implemented it. So we're you know, will take effect once the tax review board reviews all the appeals and whatever, which we don't actually have that many of them, because nobody can dispute their values, which is kind of interesting. But it's going to be a hard hit for some of our residential people.
And so will yours be your tax rate will be set for July 1, 22?
Yes, yeah. And we're going to see also in that, Mayor, the same as you, we're going to see a pretty substantial reduction in our mill rate, but it doesn't make up for that shift.
Yeah.
We're the same in Wilkett. We're writing the revals kicking in this year. And we're just running some numbers now. We got the Board of Ed's budget's gonna be passed Monday, and ours, we got some numbers and we're running them against houses, you know, all different price houses, where they are. And it's not too bad, but you're right, they went up a lot. You know, mine particularly went up $32,000, my assessment. So the mill rate would have to drop significantly, and it doesn't look like it's going to. Looks like we're only dropping like 3 mils. So we're watching that closely. We may implement. I'm just going to watch it closely. I don't want to kick the can down the road, but I don't know how that phase-in works. I'll have to sit down with you offline and see how that works.
I just think I have a good understanding how it works, but I could also have people at a meeting with you to help you with that. Pete?
Yeah, so exactly the same as you, Mayor. We were initially thinking of moving up our reval because last time it was delayed from 5 to 6. If we move it up to 4 to get back on schedule, we would be doing it this year. We budgeted for it, but we're seeing exactly what you are seeing. So I definitely want to get actively involved in the phase-in discussions. I guess my question would be, without having even studied it yet, if you phase in the, the impact over years on the residential side, what's your stated mill rate? In other words, if your mill rate drops, I'll just say in Naugatuck, say it dropped from 47 to 39, which is possible. If that happened and we phase in the tax, what would the stated mill rate be as far as business, coming to Naugatuck, seeing a lower mill rate? What is our mill rate when you're phasing it in? The lower number phased in over time, or a higher number adjusted over the years? How does that work?
Well, that's a really good question, and I'm going to take a stab at it from 30,000 feet and say that you would be you'd be at 47. So your first year, if you did a 5-year phase in, that's 8 mils. So you would probably go from 47 to 45 to 43 to 41 to you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Each year you would go down a couple of mils until it worked out to, where you to 39. And that's,
we'll work with you on that. We're in exactly the same boat you're in.
yeah. So, look, my people are going to say, look, we're really grateful that our property value went up so high, but we're not interested in selling the house, and we can't afford a $700 increase. And by the way, for people who have, houses in the country club area or the east side of town up in East Mountain, they're going to see more than 700. So yeah, so let's I throw it on your radar only for today's purposes. We do have a meeting coming up on Friday. We could put together a little committee, but I got to tell you, the political appetite in my mind right now is looking at the phase-in approach, and you can do up to 5 years. So you can do a 4-year phase-in, a 3-year phase-in. So I don't. Everybody can look at it differently, but let's have a discussion with the committee as a whole on Friday. Maybe we could set something up on the agenda to talk about that, Rick. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So you guys want to make a motion to go into executive session and note the time, and off we go.
And just invite me.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll go into executive session.
Okay, hang on a second, Mr. Mayor. Rich, I know you can hear me. Do me a favor, shut the recording, and then you can just log